Here we go. You are live. You're muted, Mr. Cole.
Isn't this too funny? You think that all this time that we've been on Zoom, you would know to unmute yourself. But things never seem to go even in a imperfect world perfectly. Well, first and foremost, good evening and thank you for joining us today. My name is Michael Cole, and I have the wonderful honor of serving as one of your Columbus City School Board members for the Columbus City School Board of Education, and also am a volunteer co-chair for Region 5 of Columbus City Schools. My role here is to help facilitate the conversation tonight and to take you through the agenda of the evening. Now, please keep your camera on for this entirety of the meeting. I will do the same because I have a bad habit of not doing that at times, but I'm always multitasking. But keep your microphones on mute until we get the discussion breakout rooms. Use the chat function should you have a question, and we will have other regional volunteers assist in making sure you're heard. We'll acknowledge we don't have an answer you may have that you may have questions for in the chat. So please be patient with us to that effect. I'd like to, secondly, ask everyone to please help us exercise a bit of grace. Everyone will have the opportunity to voice their opinion. Help us remain positive. We know that this year has been stressful, and sometimes the conversations about facilities and planning of the future can be stressful, but we're here with very talented people, might I add, Ms. Randall. Very talented people, okay? And we want to be sure that we remain positive and constructive. So we will acknowledge when we don't have answers right now. All questions in the chat we've documented by our student lead and answered by our district staff at a later time and compiled into an FAQ document. Now, we also have board member Jennifer Adair. Is Board President Adair on with us?
She's not going to be on with us, but I think she has, we have a video of President Adair that Misty is going to join and share.
Okay. Well, Misty, are you going to kick that off now?
Yes.
All right.
We have one more video. Give me 1 second.
Thank you for that initial, Misty.
It's so inspiring, but it's a little intimidating, right? Will humans even be needed? We'll be doing the fun stuff. That's the better way to think about it, maybe.
Educator.
All right, here is the second video.
You know, I'm as a educator of over 30 years, it concerns me when I see that, or at least what I believe is we have communities that have been become disengaged from their schools. And I just believe that our schools are a key element of any community and a key kind of bedrock of communities. And so I believe that we've got to better engage and more meaningfully engage our communities back into how we're thinking about our students and how we're thinking about the design of our schools. I've had experiences where I engage the communities in thinking about, what is it we want, and knowing that this is a rapidly changing world, interconnected, global, rapidly changing world. What do we want for our children? And these schools are the community schools. They're not Karen schools. And so how do we invigorate and excite people around what's going on in that school down the street? And how do we engage them in new and different ways? And I think if we can reinvigorate, reconnect our communities back to our schools, it will make our schools better and ultimately create better conditions and better outcomes for our kids.
Thank you, Misty, for those videos. Now, if we want to move on to our meeting hosts, please, let's get that started.
Thank you, Board Member Cole. Also with us this evening is Diane Agnes, who is Area Superintendent. We also have representation from the Leggett Group of Architects who are planning the consulting in this process. And Robin, are you the only one on?
That's
Robin
the one,
Randall
yes.
and Mel.
I'm here today. Mhm.
Okay, so we have Robin Randall from Leggett Architects. And Board Member Cole, do you want to take it away with what to expect next?
What we can expect next is essentially a presentation from Leggett and the opportunity to, moving forward, have some Q&A. So we look forward to our exercises moving forward.
And I'm having trouble advancing, of course, so hang on just a second. Let me try that again. Wasn't having any trouble before. Here, there we go. We'll go this way. All right, thank you so much. And so this is our team, Robin, Dennis, and Melva, and you'll see us at different times in different regions. So what you should expect from us is that will be facilitating the process, but it's really community-led. We are architects with a lot of experience doing master planning, but what makes us successful is that we use our 2 ears more than our mouths. So we know that God gave us 2 ears, and having the best listeners, listening skills in the room is really what our goal is. But we will be here as resources and be collecting information. What we are embarking on is a 5-step master plan collaborative process. And we are in the first step, which is the gather phase. And that is to gather all the information we can from you as community members and from the the facilities and from all of the area information. So we'll be gathering information first so that we can collect that data. And as I was mentioning with Mr. Cole, is we're interested in the research because that validates the data that we will bring to you as we move forward. The next month, we will embark on the envision portion of the master plan. And what that is really capturing your vision for the facilities as we move forward. How does it tie with the portrait of the graduate? How do we take adaptability as a key element for our future students? And what does that look like in a facility? What does a facility need to be adaptable? And so we'll translate that. We'll share information about trends across the world. You're a global citizen when you're at Columbus City Schools, and we want you to feel that and understand that your facilities should be global caliber. So we'll create that vision statement that includes goals and objectives, and those will be the measuring stick as we move forward in the process. The next step in June will be to define what are those puzzle pieces that we need. Is it a robotics lab? We just saw that very inspiring information about robotics, right? What do we need for community spaces? Is there a healthcare center? Is there an opportunity for the community to use these facilities so that they're not just being used during school time, but used 24/7 for the community? And what are the spaces that the community needs to be supported? So those three steps are really how we're going to define how we move forward, and those will be our measuring sticks. And then we will move to solving the problem. How do we put these puzzle pieces together? How do they fit in your facilities? What makes sense? What makes sense in terms of funding? What makes sense in terms of elementary schools versus middle schools versus high schools? High schools are really pre-college environments now. They're getting people set up for vocational. They're getting people set up for going directly into jobs. What do we need to do to impact those facilities? So we'll come up with concepts during that consider phase. And then once we draw those concepts, we'll bring those back to the community and say, what are those, what are the pros and cons of those concepts? So just to be clear, those concepts will be part of this process, and you'll be contributing. You'll be telling us where those puzzle pieces need to go, and then we'll be documenting it. As I said, we're purely facilitating this. This is all coming from the community. And then during the transform phase, we're going to evaluate what are the pros and cons of each of the options, and then what makes sense for you, what transforms your mission into a place that you need for education. And that will be broken down in phase 1, phase 2, over the next 5 to 10 to 15 years. So that's really what we're doing. That's the exciting process. And as we dig into this first phase, that is gather, there's a whole list of things that we've been doing behind the scenes to collect data and history. We have all kinds of information about how the curriculum's changing. The portrait of the graduate is informing this process. And so now we're ready to gather from you the information that we need. A survey has been sent out to you, and we're hoping that you filled it out and you're ready to talk about it tonight. So there's a whole history of how Columbus City Schools has been investing in education over the years. In 2002, we embarked on a facilities master plan, which talked about community fostering increased achievement. We set goals in academic programs and really built those foundations for learning. Since then, 46 of the district schools, serving over 22,000 students in segments 1, 2, and 3. The facilities master plan has either renovated or reconstructed 21st century learning environments. So we're already on our way to transforming these facilities, but we know that the society is changing, right? We've been through this period of the last over a year, right, of rapid change. What do we need now, right? So over the past year, we've engaged in the community to create that educational vision, that portrait of a graduate. Hopefully you were all a part of that engagement. We were there attending and listening and learning to really set that long-term vision for the new strategic plan. And then as a community, here we are making a personal investment into how our students will be prepared to be global citizens in the 21st century. So thank you for joining us today and being an integral part in shaping the future for these facilities. So this is really a feedback loop. It's a circular process. So what we learn from you in these conversations are going to be constantly informing the master planning committee. And we're going to be sharing that information with us. And then again, we're going to continue to ask the questions. So in each of those 5 steps, we're going to have a survey. We're going to have a community engagement session. We're going to learn from that community engagement session, and then we're going to feed that back to the facilities master planning committee. And these community conversations need to be with everyone. We're hoping that representatives of each of these pie pieces are here tonight. If they're not, if you see someone missing, bring them along. So we know that this is a consensus building process. And if you know of naysayers, like they're not going to do anything in our neighborhood or they're not going to do anything in our region, bring them along because they need to be part of the conversation. And what I've seen through this process is that the naysayers sometimes become our best advocates because they come, they see, they make it their idea, and then they want to go out and tell the community, hey, they're going to have a robotics lab, they're going to have an outdoor learning facility, they're going to have a community center that's going to improve our community, and I want to be part of this, bringing it to my school district. So bring your friends, neighbors, business leaders, everybody that you think would have a voice in this conversation. Please invite them to continue. And it doesn't matter if they're here for Gather and they can't make it for Define or they can't make it for Envision. Have them come whenever they can come. It's not a linear process. It's, like I said, it's a constant feedback loop. So we're going to continue to gather this information. So how are we structured? We've got the 6 regions, and then we've got the region co-chairs, which are doing the introductions tonight. Thank you, Tiffany. We've got our student ambassador lead. If you want to shout out to you, introduce yourself if you're here tonight. Go off mute and say hello.
Hi,
Hello.
Thank you for being here, student ambassadors. Thanks for skipping your homework tonight. You didn't hear that from me. And then the family ambassador lead. Be sure and introduce yourselves.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kiara Benson, and I'm the family ambassador at Huey Elementary.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. So as I said, this is the list of all the people that we've invited to be a part of this endeavor. And as I said, keep reaching out to the community, encouraging people to come. And then as we lead to the facilities master plan committee, we are including the co-chairs and the student ambassadors as part of that committee at the large table. So this is the process and this is the structure. So the community volunteers in each of the 6 regions, they will have the co-chair act as the meeting host, and then the breakout room manager is the regional co-chair, And we're all going to be breaking into small groups for discussion tonight. And every night we will have a breakout session. The chat function monitor is the student leads. So they're keeping track. They're going to monitor those questions. If you can answer them in the small group, go ahead. But if you need to hold them and have the staff answer them, it's really up to you. But just have that conversation and collect those questions. No question is a bad question. And then the Google Docs monitor, the family ambassador will keep track in the breakout sessions. They will take notes in the Google Docs that'll be live, and it'll be collected on the Google Doc and be transmitted, and then we will brief that information into the large group table. So all of this information is valuable. Every comment is important, so please be active and share that information. And then we will be here answering questions along the way. I'll be involved in 1 to 2 of the evenings each month. So you'll see me, you'll see Dennis, and you'll see Melva as we interchange being the resource. So the 6 regions will be meeting in 6 meetings each of the weeks, mid-month of each of the months. So we will be meeting via Zoom in the months of April, May, and June. And then we're hopeful by September, when we start generating those concepts, and all of you get to play architect and put those puzzle pieces together, that we'll do that in person. These are the dates that each of the regions will be meeting. And we talked about today, I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver, but we did talk about today that if there are community members that need to meet either during the daytime, that we might find a lunchtime meeting time that also could accommodate either working parents or people that need a more flexible schedule and can't make the evening meetings. But we're trying to rotate them around. So if there's a Monday event that doesn't work for you, then maybe Wednesday or Thursday might work for you. But this is the structure again. And as I said, I'll be covering most of the Mondays. Dennis will be covering most of the Wednesdays, and Melva will be covering most of the Thursdays. We know that you've seen the map of Columbus and how important the regions are, and equity across every region is critical during this process. So if you, again, know people in your region that need to be involved, please ask them to be. The high schools, middle schools, elementary schools, and special instructional schools will all be part of this master plan process. They will all have some attention given to them, but we want to hear from you what is the best process as we move forward. So I think it's time for breakout sessions. And so I know that you've received an email about the Zoom breakout room, and you're going to be asked to join. And so please click join when that comes across your screen. Discussions will be recorded in the Google form. And in your room, please select the following. This is up to you. Someone to scribe, someone to write down and jot down thoughts on the Google form. A champion to make sure all voices are heard. We know those introverts might not be the loudest in the room, but sometimes they're the smartest in the room. So be sure and have everyone be able to offer their voice and their comments. And then the reporter will report back to the large group when we come back from the Zoom breakout. I'll just read these survey questions so everyone can be thinking. What aspects of your schools do you feel are successful for education? And then what aspects of your schools do you feel are barriers for education?
Okay, thank you so much. So this is the gathering phase process. I want everyone to know that we want your voices to be heard. Again, my name is Tiffany White. I am one of the co-chairs for Region Number 5. When we're thinking about the future of Columbus City Schools, let's not just think about standardized testing or curriculum, but other aspects such as equity, diversity, social and emotional well-being within our community. What's working, what's not working. We want your honest feedback so that we can move forward successfully and give our kids the best opportunities to thrive in this city. So with that, you should have something pop up at the bottom of your screen that'll give you your breakout room. We want everyone to answer those 2 questions. There is a Google Doc that we're going to pull feedback from, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome back. I think I'll stop sharing my screen. This is really a chance for the small groups to report back. So it might be more fun to actually see our faces. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and then we'll be able to see everyone.
So some of our groups, Robin, kind of joined in because there was no one in their group. So I'm gonna ask for group 1 to give 1 or 2 minutes about the information that you gathered.
To piggy off what Tiffany said, this is Dr. Medina Cortez. I was also in room 1. I went through the rooms to make sure someone had representation or that they were able to have discussions. Missy, I'm not sure if you want to document this, but there was about 3 or 4 rooms, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rooms, 6 rooms where there was no presence of participants. And other rooms that had 1 or 2 people, I just moved them into rooms where there were individuals present so that they can be part of the discussion.
Thank you for that.
So was I think group 2 the largest number? Maybe group 1 didn't have anyone. Is that what happened?
Group 2 didn't have anyone. Group 3, no one. Group 4, 0. Group 5 had 2. I sent them into room 1. Group 6, 0. Group 7, they had a large number. 8, 9, 0. In room 10 had 4. And since you're the second, we're co-chairs, I seen that you were in there, so I didn't say anything and I just bowed out to a different room.
Okay, so we have 1, 7, and 10 as far as the actual rooms with participants.
This 1, 7, and 10. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so if group 1 could just give a brief overview of the successes and then the barriers, and we'll give you about 2 minutes and then we'll go to group 7 and then group 10.
All righty, so I was a part of group 1. Good evening, my name is Christina Vera. And reporting for group 1 for successes, collectively, the group felt that, as a district, we are doing a great job with, cultivating our diversity within the district. There was mention of the diverse translation opportunities that we utilize on our website, also the additional translation services that we have within our schools. A committee member also mentioned an amazing job that she felt as she entered school buildings that the principal and the teachers had in terms of interaction with their students, creating a warm and welcoming environment. So that was something that she stated, in addition to the opportunity for college readiness programs. So the district does a phenomenal job with providing gifted learning opportunities in addition to college readiness and addition to ESL services. So that was kind of the consensus in regards to what we are doing as a district highlight wise. And then the areas of opportunity, it was mentioned that They felt that the district needs to do a more cohesive job of making sure that, and related to the COVID-19 recommendations, that all schools need to be following the same protocol. As of right now, it feels as if some schools are following certain protocols and some schools are not. Another area of concern was about just in terms of that equity piece, really diving into what does equity look like as a district, and making sure that we are being intentional about our implementation processes, that they do in fact create equity for everyone. In addition to our facilities, as we have talked about futuristic planning, we recognize the importance of planning for a future Columbus City School District, but we also want to emphasize the need for upgrades now. And so it was noted that there is some CARES Act funding that will be in place to be able to provide some services to schools that were not originally listed in the Operation Fix It. So that is something that we are looking to kind of further explore, as we have several thousand students in our district right now that need quality facilities along with our teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think Diane Agnes was on that call in that room as well, correct?
Yes.
The area superintendent.
Correct.
Can you say a few words? I so appreciate you, and I apologize that you were skipped earlier in the introduction. So could you just tell us a little bit about what you do as an area superintendent, and then what you're trying to gather from this call?
Absolutely. So I am the very lucky area superintendent for Region 5. My job is to support 20 physical school buildings, and our Columbus Digital Academy is part of Region 5 as well. So for those who may not be familiar, Region 5 is made up of Beechcroft, Northland, and Mifflin high schools, and then all of the middle schools and elementaries in those feeder patterns. Our focus in our region this year has been very much on developing a vision for the region. We're focused on student growth, academically, socially, and addressing the needs of our very diverse population in Region 5. So in our group, we talked about addressing the needs of our ESL students and families, and that's definitely an area of priority in our region, making sure that everyone is experiencing success there. So I could not be more proud to represent the buildings that I do. And I'm just excited to hear everybody's ideas. At the beginning of the meeting, someone mentioned it was a little overwhelming watching that futuristic video. And I think it was board member Cole talked about how when he was in school, same when I was in school, we sat in rows, right? Everybody's classroom looked the same. We had chalkboards. When I was a teacher, my technology was a whiteboard instead of a chalkboard, and then smart boards kind of came in. So it's really exciting. I have a son who's going to work for Amazon once he graduates here in a couple weeks from Bowling Green. And I was excited to see all the innovation with them and all the things I hope that he'll be able to tell me all about here shortly. So I just appreciate everyone taking time and being here, and look forward to going through the process.
Thank you so much. Group 7, about 1 to 2 minutes about the successes and the barriers.
Okay, I'll go for group 7. If any of our other group members want to speak up, stop me, or correct me at any moment, please feel free. So in group 7, there were a few overarching themes that came up time and time again across our schools. The first one, benefits, I'm sorry. We largely said that our staff and our students are overall the largest benefits and benefits to the student education. We said for facilities, that the AC and heating is updated. A lot of schools have where their classrooms, they can control the AC and heating. And that was majorly it for that category. And then for barriers, we broke it down into a couple of different categories. The overarching themes, firstly, was that ADA compliance we have seen a lack of in all of our schools and facilities for students with disabilities. One staff member said that students cannot get up the steps if they have broken legs or if they are using a wheelchair. So often they've had to do their work downstairs. They don't have access to the upstairs classrooms and facilities because there's no elevator for them to be able to have access to their education upstairs. I know at Devonshire personally, where I teach, students with disabilities are having their interventions conducted in the outside module, and the outside module is very susceptible to theft, a lot of vandalism. We've had a lot of incidents with that, and there is less access to technology and resources out there. The Wi-Fi is very poor out there, so for students with disabilities out there in a completely separate part of the school, they're not even in the school. It doesn't seem that they are getting their best education there. We also said ADA compliance with bathrooms. A lot of our bathrooms are not ADA compliant, and that's a struggle for some students. I know at Devonshire, we have 3 staff bathrooms, but one is being used for students with multiple disabilities so that they can change in there. Does anyone else from our group have anything to say about ADA compliance or students with disabilities? No? Okay. The other theme was that access to education for English language students. They're being pulled into the mods, and they're like, just for students with disabilities, there's not enough space to provide them the interventions that they need to pull them out of class. We can't push into class right now, so there is no space. They're being pushed into mods. They're being pushed into rooms with multiple teachers, multiple other students, and it is just not an equitable education for them to get those interventions that they need. Safety was another big one. At Devonshire, we have a leaky roof. More than once, water has poured into my classroom on top of my students' heads. Mold has accumulated in my classroom. Thankfully, we have fixed. Mice has been a problem in multiple buildings. And we were also concerned with even with the updates to the vestibules and safety features, they still allow easy access to support personnel. So people could still get into the building with malice if they had access to the support personnel. So we thought that the safety features that we currently have need to be updated even further. And finally, overall access to resources. Libraries cannot be used during testing, which sometimes could be months. Devonshire, we cannot use the library at all. We have not been able to use the library this year because it's the only place where we can quarantine students. So we don't have access to those books. We don't have access to the copier. We don't have access to that huge community space. I'm trying to look off my notes. Pardon me. Just overall access to resources. Technology is not being updated properly, and it seems overall we've outgrown our spaces. I apologize if I went on a little too long.
No, that's okay. Thank you so much. And for group 10, I was the scribe because there were only a few in that group. So as far as successes, there were, it depends on the building. These are, there were 2 educators that have gone from high school to elementary and back, middle school even. And it depends on the classroom and the school, what type of environment you're going to get. So there's no cohesiveness from building to building or even from staff to students. Dedicated spaces where no one is sharing a space, not the nurses, the social workers or anything. Kids do better when they're in an environment to learn, but they also need to feel loved, safe, and cared for. And many of the students in this region particularly lack a lot of the basic needs. So the staff find themselves trying to fill those needs as far as food, clothing. There are some schools that have washing machines, so they're washing clothes for kids. Uniform schools are making sure they have their socks or, whatever it is that they need. So their basic needs are being met. There are a couple of schools where there are classrooms with no windows. That's problematic for a couple of reasons, but it would be nice to have windows in all of the learning spaces so that the young people can connect with environment. The educators that were on there love what they do, though. So I think they make their environments what they are the best that they can. But it would be nice if they would be able to have their own space. They can be welcoming, loving, caring, and meet these needs so that the kids are successful. So that's what we had for group 10. So Kiera, you were the family ambassador. Was there anything in the Google Docs that seemed interesting to you or that we probably need to talk about in this gathering phase?
Yeah, there were a few things, and thank you all for sharing. I tried to pop into some of the rooms and just listen, and you guys did a great job of presenting. I really don't have a lot to share from the Google Forms that you didn't already mention. I just pulled out a few things that popped up in a couple different groups. For successes, I really like the one saying that they're seeing some HVAC improvements. We know that's been an issue within the district, but some schools are seeing that. So that's definitely good to just put kids in an environment where they can focus on learning first. And another thing I think two of the groups mentioned, just the teachers and principals really caring personally about the school and the surrounding community, because a lot of the needs within the school building mirror what's in that direct community. And another success is programs, and a program that I didn't quite know about but I'm interested in is Project Adventure, that allows students to shine with unique needs. So students who may struggle academically or experience language barriers can still experience success. So those are what I pulled for successes. As far as barriers, I think the overall consensus is that the gyms and lunchrooms are combined in a lot of schools and they're not having a direct meeting space. So if there is a special program from a community partner, they're not being able to utilize that space during lunch hour. Another thing that I pulled out, I'm going to use Northland High School as an example. They have a technology program, but they don't have enough outlets to facilitate that technology program. So that's definitely a concern. And safety features, Ms. Chase talked about some in her group, but I pulled a few more. Just lighting in the parking lot, especially if we're going to be using these spaces as community spaces after school hours. Lighting is definitely going to be an issue. And doorknobs that lock from the outside. One more thing that was there was a question just about innovation in general and learning spaces. And will teachers be given the liberty to teach in an innovative manner, or going forward, is it still going to be more traditional manner? So thank you guys for submitting the forms.
Yes, thank you. And if you haven't completed your Google form, please do so. I think that Robin has a final thoughts slide, and then we'll let you guys get out of here.
So you guys are privy to what is next. So April 28th will be the Facility Master Plan Committee meeting. It will include all the regional co-chairs because we're having all our meetings this week, Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. All student leads, as well as the chair, Jim Negron, and they will review the discussions that we have had through these community meetings. Then we'll provide insight for potential improvements, discuss ideas for future community discussions, what we learned, lessons learned from tonight, what can help things move better, and then receive content from the experts. So we'll be reporting to the large group. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Bring a friend next time. Our next time of meeting will be in May, and I appreciate you being here. Our team appreciates it, and you are making the schools better by being here. So thank you for your comments and your questions.
Thank you for your, you everyone for presenting your thoughts and ideas. All the information, as Robin said, will be put together into a larger master plan, and we'll come together with the 5 regions. I, as a parent, am going to the one on Wednesday because I want to be a participant as well. So I encourage you to do the same if you have students and you're a teacher, or you have kids in other districts or regions. Again, Wednesday, April 28th, you can view this via Facebook or Columbus City Schools YouTube page. The review process will lead us to future questions, and we want you guys to be ready for the Envision process. So I'm excited about that. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great evening.